Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I am KP. I've got Nick with us once again, where we're going to be discussing our predictions for WrestleMania Night 2, live from Philadelphia. And we have just literally off the back of this one done our Night 1 predictions. So we're going along, getting straight into the next one. And we're excited to get our predictions out for the second installment of WrestleMania weekend. So as you can see there, WrestleMania 40, we've got a whole lot of matches ready to discuss, and we are keen as ever to get into all the ins and outs of everything that's going to be happening. Once again, we're going to be discussing all of the matches in terms of who we think is going to win, our theories, how everything's going to go down. So let's get started. Let's get underway and let's get cracking. So here we go then. We have got our first topic of conversation for night 2. The United States Championship is on the line in a triple threat matchup. We have got Kevin Owens and Randy Orton as the challengers in this one, where they're going to be taking on Logan Paul as well as themselves in a triple threat contest here. So the United States champion, Logan Paul, defending his title once again. And we saw him defending against Kevin Owens back at the Royal Rumble. That feels like a little while ago now, because the build is quite long between Elimination Chamber, and obviously you had that built before the just after the Rumble. So yeah, it's been a while since then. Wait, hold on, did they fight at the Elimination Chamber? No, yeah, it was Royal Rumble. Yeah, that's fine. Just scrap that a little bit out just then. Here we go. Bots is coming along. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so yeah, you had that whole situation back then. That's kind of snowballed into the Elimination Chamber, which is then snowballed into WrestleMania. Obviously, you had the stop at Chamber in Australia, where Randy would get involved in the situation. That would be the back end of that Chamber matchup, which ultimately Drew McIntyre would end up winning. Logan Paul would get eliminated by Orton, get hit by that RKO, and it would be a situation where Logan wouldn't remove himself from the Chamber. He'd stay in there like a lion, ready to pounce. And as Randy was closing out for the victory, he would give him a big right hand to the face with those brass knuckles, and that would cost Randy his chance to go to WrestleMania up against Seth Rollins. So that's then petered out into SmackDown over the last 5 or 6 weeks, and ultimately it come down to Nick Aldis, and he would say, you know what, you're not going to go up against Kevin Owens, or just Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. You're also going to go up against Randy Orton as well. It's going to be triple threat action, and it's for your US Championship. And I think this one poses to be a lot of fun. So you've got 3 guys, obviously Randy, one of the all-time greats, Kevin Owens, a personal favorite of mine, Logan Paul. Every time we have him in a match or we discuss him on here, we obviously sing his praises. He's, for someone of his tenure in the business, he's phenomenal. Again, not going to go too much into that because we're, repeating ourselves. But I think you've got so many different styles here. Then that's what's going to make this one really come to life. So I think this one's got a lot of potential to be a really great match. And as far as the United States Championship goes, I think you could go down a couple of routes with this one as well. So I'm interested to see what your thoughts are in regards to how this one is going to play out, because I think, this one could go a multitude of ways. So where's your head at right now?
Yeah, I feel like there's really not, with the competitors in ring, there's really not a weak spot. You really can't. I can't really think of a bad match that any 3 of these guys have had. And I think, as far as what to expect and where to go, there are very few matches on both nights that I just really don't have a clue where they're going to go. And this is one of them. I could see Kevin winning, I could see Randy winning, and I could see Logan retaining. None of those would surprise me. I think, I think I'm leaning towards a retained title. And I don't really have a ton of support for that or reasoning for that. It just feels like I didn't think the part-time would work, and I'm still not a huge fan of it. He's been there a little more than I thought he would, but I think also it's a WrestleMania build, so I don't think they were going to allow him just to not be there. So I think that's, and again, I don't have any support for that. I just feel like the Logan winning is probably what will happen. But ideally, personally, I would rather Kevin or Randy win, because I know they're going to be there every week. Without going down that rabbit hole, that's that's the thoughts I have on this match. But I really am excited for this one. Probably in my top 5 as far as looking forward to, just because of the talent, the 3 guys in here.
So much talent. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. When it comes to the way this match is going to go, I really wanted to see what your opinion was on that. That's why I just put the question out there immediately, because, like you say, I think this one has. I don't think it has like a set, definite direction to go in here, and I've thought about this one quite a lot, and I thought the dynamic between Kevin Owens and Randy Orton has been very interesting in the recent weeks, right? So they haven't really been against each other in any sort of capacity. Yeah, sure, they're opponents in the matchup, but they haven't really felt like adversaries to one another. They've been sort of like on the same wavelength. They've been going up against likes of Pretty Deadly, and they come off the back of like the Austin Theory, Grayson Waller nonsense at the start. I think like when you talk of them in the build to this one, they've been very pally and friendly, and I think everybody in Randy Orton's past, except for maybe someone like Riddle, has always had their comeuppance eventually, right? You can't trust a Viper. And I think when the match is in play, I think we're going to get, you're probably a classic at the start. It's probably going to be Randy and KO bringing it to Logan. And then, there's a bit of time where Logan's out the ring or whatever, leaves these two down to it. And then they sort of gradually build that up. And I think that's going to happen in this matchup. I think it's going to get to a point where these two are going to come to a head. They have to. It's triple threat. Got no option. But I think that sort of teamwork that they've showed in recent weeks ultimately is going to come to a close, going to come to an end. And we're going to have those two really go at each other. And I think maybe in the melee of that towards the very end of the match, I think that's maybe when tempers will rise the most, and that might be a window then for Logan Paul to maybe take that opportunity, snatch a win at the very end. Maybe like, I don't know, it could be, for example, like a stunner from KO onto Orton that deals with him for a second. KO's got literally no option but to sort of like just step back or something, and then maybe like he gets hit by a big right hand from Logan. I think it's something like that. Not obviously, definitely that's how it's going to go down, but I'm thinking that sort of dynamic with the end, maybe Logan just snatching a win right at the very death. But yeah, I'm going to go with Logan to retain his title in some sort of like desperation move, maybe when the focus is more on KO and Randy at that point. That's how I'm going to think about this one going forward.
Yeah, and I think, and to your point about Randy, I think you could really say that about, any competitor in this match. Needs to remind you how many times KO has turned on the people that he considers to be dear friends. And, Logan is clearly anything to win kind of guy. At least that's how he's been portrayed to this point. But yeah, the build has been interesting. I don't want to say bad. I don't want to say good. It's been interesting, I guess. And that body dynamic, I just don't. Maybe that, like you said, maybe that'll play a part in the first couple minutes, but then I think quickly we'll learn that at the end of the day, all 3 of these guys are out for themselves, and hopefully that ends up and translates into being one of what I think could be one of the matches of the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's got a lot of fun written all over this one, and it should be interesting. Obviously, at the time we're recording here, we still do have the KO show. That's going to be on SmackDown with Randy Orton as a guest. Something that I'm surprised we haven't seen so far is the latest KO Mania shirt. That hasn't really been something that's come up in conversation just yet. So I'm interested to see maybe if he debuts that. That just took a little tangent on there. Doesn't really mean anything to the match, but as a big KO fan, know about all of his KO Mania shirts of recent years. So looking forward to seeing it. Hopefully they do bring that as a part of it, because obviously he does wear the shirt for, the vest, whatever, for the matches. So, I think you made a great point. KO has turned on plenty of people in the past. Sami Zayn multitude of times, and then obviously, Jericho and whatnot as well. So you can't really trust anybody in this one, especially not Logan Paul, that's for sure. But let's move on now. And let's talk about another matchup that we're going to be having on night 2. And we have got the megastar, LA Knight, taking on the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. And these guys have hated each other for a while now. This dates back to before the Royal Rumble. And you're talking AJ, he would come back to save LA Knight and I think Randy Orton at the time when they were in like a bit of a comeuppance with the Bloodline, and the Bloodline would be laughing because Stars would then sucker punch LA Knight, and that would all go from there. This has snowballed on through the Royal Rumble, through Elimination Chamber, where LA Knight would be competing for a shot at Seth Rollins, and Stars would fly all the way around the world just to cost LA Knight his opportunity to face Seth, which I thought was an absolutely brilliant shithouse moment. So that was really cool. I quite enjoyed that particular part. But yeah, you can tell these guys hate each other. They really don't like one another. And that's brought us here to the WrestleMania 40 match, LA Knight against Styles. And we've seen all sorts of shenanigans with them recently. LA Knight going over to AJ Styles' house and them just brawling all over the arena. And yeah, it's been chaotic. And, the aggressiveness has been the biggest part of this rivalry, which has been really cool to see, actually. I definitely enjoyed this one. The build-up has been a lot of fun to watch. I think that these two guys complement each other quite nicely as well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this one plays out. So I think you could really go either way with this one. I don't think there's like a 100% guaranteed winner in my book from this one. But yeah, what have you made of the assertiveness between these two? Did you rate Styles going all the way across the world to cost LA Knight that opportunity? What did you think about everything in the build up to this one?
Well, not to mention kayfabe, but AJ Styles got to go, because you remember when they went over there, the Elimination Chamber, all the superstars were out for like the entire week. They made a whole week out of it, and all the superstars were interacting with the crowds and swimming in the ocean, all that stuff. AJ Styles got to do all that. He got to go all out there, and then he only had to work for about 2 minutes. So nice little work vacation, you could call that, for AJ. But as for the match itself, the build has been one of the better ones that didn't involve the Bloodline. And I feel like that's kind of that's how that went, because we spent so much time in the Bloodline. I think the other kind of builds have kind of suffered for that. But take the pros and the cons of a huge 2-night event involving Roman and that whole thing. But yeah, as for the match itself, I think I'm looking forward to this one. It's AJ Styles. You can't go wrong with an AJ Styles match, one-on-one. I think what I'm most looking forward to is LA Knight to have another chance to prove himself. I'm still skeptic of his in-ring work. You can't deny his promo work, but I want to see him put on a high performance, high quality match versus one of the best to ever do it, AJ Styles. So I'm hoping they give this one a lot of time, and if so, and I'm hoping LA Knight shines and they can kind of put that doubt from me to rest. But I think the correct winner here for me is LA Knight. AJ Styles has nothing to prove here, and LA Knight kind of has everything to prove. So I think just by that definition and kind of default thinking, I think LA Knight has to win this. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm hoping it's a really good match, and they give him plenty of time to kind of showcase what he can do.
Yeah, after umming and ahhing, I think I have to agree with you. I think that LA Knight is. I say I have to agree with you. Why did that sound so pessimistic? No, I am going to agree with you. I do agree with you. LA Knight, yeah, I think he's got a lot more to gain from this one. So a one-on-one victory against Stars at WrestleMania is something that a lot of superstars would snatch a hand at the chance of getting. So I think LA as well, given his current status and he wants to put himself in a bigger picture, possibly even in a title opportunity going forward, maybe the United States Championship, possibly. I think that this is a prime opportunity for him to go on to something like that following on from this. So yeah, if he beats AJ Styles, I think that he's got to be probably up there with one of the top names as maybe a US title contender, or maybe even another world title opportunity. But I think it probably would be the US title. So yeah, Styles to win. No, sorry, LA Knight to win, and Yeah, I think that's probably the best outcome here. So yeah, agreeing with what you were referencing to a moment ago. But yeah, I think I'm saying yeah a lot. It's rubbing off on me. But this has a lot of promise to it. So yeah, the crowd's gonna be great. I can't see the crowd being quiet for this type of matchup. The build's been good. The matchup should be quality. People love LA Knight, and obviously the promo work that he can do. Maybe we'll get a little bit of him on the mic, maybe possibly at Mania. That would be pretty awesome if it happens. So yeah, LA Knight to win. I don't know if you've got anything else to add on from this one before we go on to our next topic conversation.
Yeah, no, I don't. Other than just looking forward to it, and kind of and maybe I'm curious to get your thoughts on LA Knight. Do you feel like, I know you watch quite a bit of NXT, and I don't typically, other than PLEs. Do you feel like LA Knight still has something to prove in ring, or do you feel like he's already done? He's already put in his work and is an established star. I feel like clearly he's supported by the fans, but I still feel like I haven't seen it in the ring yet.
I think there's a bit of both in there. I think that to say that he's an established star, I think wouldn't be telling the biggest of lies. I think that he's done his graft, right? I think working the independent scenes and going into a lifetime of proving himself. I think the story writes itself very very easily, but in the past couple of years or so, I want to say, I think that he's improved a hell of a lot. So when he first arrived on NXT, I was thinking, oh, who's this chump? What's he doing here? And it immediately, I say immediately, it probably took me about a couple of weeks. And at that point, I was immediately like, okay, right, this guy he's entertaining, he's great to watch. And that's never been an argument. But in the ring, I don't think he's I don't think he's quite like an AJ Styles or a Seth Rollins, someone like that. But I think he's like your next step down from that, maybe perhaps in terms of like your natural talent. He doesn't have that in spades, but what he does have is he has hard work, he has graft, he has the grind that I think makes him sort of not bypass that natural element, but it sort of puts him on that pedestal as maybe being someone who can be relatable for everyone else. So yeah, I'm not naturally gifted at this, but my God, am I going to work my ass off every single day? Am I going to do what I can do to get to that top position? I mean, it's worked. It's worked at the end of the day, right? So, yeah, he doesn't have your natural instincts, but I think he's improving each and every single month, probably, really, to be honest with you. I think when he had his match against Roman Reigns, I think we had a little conversation about it, and he didn't seem out of depth. Like, he didn't seem out, out of place in that particular matchup. So I think that goes to show if you can hang with someone like Roman, and you can pull your own weight, which I think he did. I think you got to give some accolades in there.
Yeah, and maybe you make a valid point. Maybe my expectations, just because of the style of wrestling I like, the AJ Styles and Seth Rollins, the workhorses, so to speak, Ben Balor, that type of thing. Perhaps my expectations for him in ring are just too high. Um, but yeah, I was just curious to get your take on him, because yeah, you can't argue his promo abilities. But I felt like I hadn't seen what I wanted to see in ring yet. So hopefully, we're here in a week or so, and we're going through our reactions, and I can say I feel like I have a more confidence of his abilities in the ring. Yeah, so I was just curious to get your thoughts on that.
No, I think that's great. I think it has been a topic of conversation for a while now. A lot of people are on the fence whether they think that he is good in the ring or not. And yeah, I think it's one of those topic conversations that I think we can talk about for quite some time. But I think maybe if we do move on now to a different topic conversation, how about we focus on one of, what should be the main events of WrestleMania, really, if you talk about what this person would win to get here. You talk about Bayley and her Royal Rumble victory. That would entitle her to the championship match at WrestleMania against a champion of her choosing. At the time, I say at the time, that's still the case now, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky are her options. And she has gone with former Damage Control compatriot Io Sky. Obviously, now that Bayley is separated from that group, things are very, very different between these two women. And Bayley's Royal Rumble victory was just brilliant. I think we can talk about that feeling at the time and how awesome that was. But the build for this one has been very unique. I think I'm going to give that as the descriptive word there, purely because it's not been bad and it hasn't been fantastic. I think it's been somewhere in the middle here. So I think when you look at the build up to this one, you had obviously Bayley splitting from Damage Control. That happened quite some time ago now. We're talking a good couple of months now, right? Just after the Royal Rumble. And since then, it's basically been Bayley fighting against the numbers and trying to sort of stay above water and sort of not get drowned by Damage Control. And it's been very difficult because that's, the numbers game is so heavy, and Bayley obviously has like half the locker room, or good 3/4 probably more so, against her. That they don't respect her. They don't agree that they should just come to her safety now because of what she would have done, or what she did do during her reign of Damage Control. So it's a very odd dynamic. I think it's been very interesting in that sense. That's why the uniqueness comes into there. So that's my description for that one. But I have enjoyed it because I think Io has been seen in a different light now. It's like she's maybe like stepped up. I think a lot of people would class Bayley as the leader of Damage Control when she was there, right? So I think now it's almost as if like Io and Dakota are essentially sort of like co-leaders, or maybe even Io is sort of like the mastermind behind it all, and Dakota is the mouthpiece behind it. So that's where the sort of like the cohesion comes in there. But what I'd like to ask you is regarding Damage Control and Bayley and Io, because I feel like they are separate regarding this one, because they've got their own thing at WrestleMania Night 1, and then you've got these two going at it in this matchup. Do you think that this build has had what's the right word I'm looking for here? Do you think this build has been good enough, considering where it's come from? The Royal Rumble winner, Bayley, winning that big matchup. Do you think it's had that limelight that it should have done? So what are your thoughts regarding that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of points to kind of delve into here. I think the biggest one, and kind of what you alluded to, was the build-up being unique, and I think it kind of co-terms with what I used earlier and as an interesting build, because when you think about it big picture, this has arguably one of the biggest builds on for Mania, and that they were dropping those Easter eggs back when Damage Control was still Damage Control. That's been a while, and more recently it hasn't been as big of a build. I felt like their interview segment of Io and Bayley attacking Io, I felt like that was the first real back and forth between them in a while. It felt like most of the build was earlier than later for this one. So I felt like that's what made the build unique, in that it didn't have a lot recently, but had a lot in the big grand scheme of things. But that being said, and I didn't want to go into this, but I think I have to at this point, and it's been a pet peeve of mine for a while, in that if someone wins the Royal Rumble and they advertise that as getting a main event picture, they either need to, or main event match, they either need to honor that. I mean, for God's sakes, we have 2 nights now. They either need to honor that, or they need to stop saying it. They need to start saying the winner gets a championship title match. It just is what it is, I guess, at this point. But I think the match itself will be one of the best matches of the weekend as well. Bayley and Io, with 2 of the best talents in the division across all brands. So I feel like the match will be good. I feel like we will see some interference as well. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one, and I would put this one as a top 5 in terms of looking forward to.
Yeah, I think it's definitely got a lot of interest from myself regarding this one because of how fond I am of Bayley and Io. I mean, yeah, like you said, you put these two in the ring, you're going to get something great off the back of it. And how about we go into, because I don't think either of us have said it just yet, what we think is actually going to happen. So, like, who we think is going to come out on top, who's going to come out with a championship, and, you know, what is going to go down. Because I think this is one of those ones that it could go either way. And I don't know whether it's just me living on hope or whatnot, but I genuinely think that we could be seeing a new champion coming off the back of this. So I don't think we've predicted too much so far. Like, just trying to think about all the matches. Yeah, I think so far it's been basically just retaining a title so far, I've said. But yeah, when it comes to Bayley, I think she's probably going to beat Io here. I don't know. I think like Io's reign has been good. Don't get me wrong. I think it's been a lot of fun to watch. It's been great for her, you know, coming up, you know, out of that sort of damage control tag team situation, going into a solo thing, and very quickly becoming a champion. You know, winning Money in the Bank, and then from there on, sort of cementing herself as one of the top women in the company. I think she's been tremendous in that role. But I think this is a good time for it to all come to a close, and for Bayley to take that really big babyface win, and, you know, defeating Io Sky, I think is going to be a really, really big moment. And I think I'm ready for it. I think genuinely this could happen. So I am going to go with Bayley for that reason. And again, not sure if it's because of hope, but I genuinely think I'm ready. I think that the story does write itself to be a change from here on now. But that's my opinion. Do you share the same?
Yeah, I'm definitely torn because two of my favorites in the ring. You know, the pros to that being the case, and that whoever wins, you know, not gonna get any flack from me. That being said, I feel like Io kind of deserves a longer run. I don't feel like she's had a ton of PLE matches defending her title. And so I kind of feel like she needs to win more than Bayley needs to win at this point to help further establish her as a main event talent. But based on the build and what we've gone through, it just wouldn't make a ton of sense for you to win, unfortunately. So I say unfortunately, but, you know, either way, it's fine with me. I think Bayley, I do think Bayley is going to win as well. Again, it just poor damage control splitting and her being, you know, outnumbered this whole time. It just seems like it's going in the direction of Bayley winning. And I think probably wrap up damage control, at least in parts, to see Bayley associated with it. So I think what you were mentioning was, you know, kind of closing out that story. I think that is true, and I think that's what will happen. Potentially, maybe getting like a rematch or something. But I kind of would prefer at this point Bayley just kind of go on her own. I think Damage Control will have their own problems with Dakota at some point, anyways. So I think Bayley kind of winning this title and kind of going forward and going after someone new would be a nice, refreshing scene at this point.
Yeah, 100% agree. I would like a little bit of a change of scenery going off the back of this. I feel like it's been, you know, the main scene of SmackDown for a little while now. Obviously, you know, you could talk about the same thing regarding the bloodline, but let's not go into that sort of situation right now. But yeah, Bayley, we're both saying Bayley to win. Let's see if that happens on night 2. So let's go into our next topic of conversation then. We have got WWE World Heavyweight Championship on the line. Seth freaking Rollins defending up against Drew McIntyre. And if I remember rightly, this is the third installment of this matchup. I think they've had 2 in the past few months. Obviously, Seth coming out on top on both those occasions. Drew has another opportunity, another chance after winning the Elimination Chamber and securing his spot at WrestleMania to go up against Seth. And the build for this one has been very, very fun to watch as well. I think a lot of the builds have, but this one has been probably one of my highlights in the build up to WrestleMania in a general. Because you don't just have these two, do you? You've also got CM Punk. Like, his name's been brought up into this so often. Drew has, you know, been the savior of WrestleMania. He's allowed us to not have CM Punk on the card, and, you know, he's very much said that, you know, he prayed for this, and this is exactly what he wanted from the situation. And obviously now he's got his matchup as well. Cherry on the top as far as he's concerned, the icing on the cake for sure. But yeah, CM Punk is going to be on commentary, if I remember rightly, for this matchup. So it's going to be very centered around that as well. I think there are going to be points in the match where, he's going to be giving it all that to Drew, as is Drew to CM Punk as well. And I also think that Seth's going to go a little bit back and forth between himself and Punk as well. So I think no one's really safe from Punk in this one. I think he's going to be on the top of their minds as well. So very interesting dynamic there when you've got that third person involved, but not involved, if that makes sense. And yeah, we've had Drew lose the last couple of matches against Seth because of a couple of reasons. At one point he hesitated, didn't capitalize, and ultimately he blamed himself. That cost him. That was that. Second matchup, Damian Priest tried to cash in, and he didn't even cash in at all, and it just sort of got a bit confusing for Drew, and he blames him for that. Then we go into this WrestleMania match, and I think Seth's obviously fed up of Drew's excuses. He just wants to put this one to bed, have this one done, and be over with it. I am not entirely sure if that's going to be the case after this one, because I think there's going to be a big old twist regarding this matchup. But before we go into Seth and Drew, let's talk about Damian Priest. So let's talk about Mr. Money in the Bank. How likely is it that we're going to be seeing a cash-in in this match or after this match? So it could be any point regarding this one.
The never-ending saga of Senor Money in the Bank and Damian Priest. I knew it would come up. I just didn't know what to say about it because at this point, kayfabe speaking is an absolute moron. He's had every opportunity to cash in on Seth many, many times, and for whatever reason doesn't. I don't think so. I don't think he's cashing in tonight. Yeah, that's plain and simple. I guess I just don't see him cashing in tonight because I don't know. I don't see it at this point. I feel like he's on the failed cash in list, and I don't see that cash in happening tonight.
And normally I'd be thinking, wow, it's WrestleMania. It's a huge match. Like, this is his opportunity. This is his moment. But I mean, we've all watched Damian Priest over the last 10 months or so, and it's been one of those interesting rides, that's for sure. He's had his opportunities, had his chances, and he hasn't taken any of them for some reason. He's always hoping for something better, I guess. But I mean, it's been so very, very interesting. I don't know. I play back and forth in my mind about, will he, won't he? Why hasn't he? Is he ever going to? All these type of questions. I think if he doesn't cash in at WrestleMania, when the hell is he going to cash in? Like, he's had Seth dead to rights after a last man standing, didn't bother. Like, that was the biggest opportunity for him, and he didn't do it then. So, like, Seth's been carrying this injury for some time now. It's so funny. It's so very interesting because anybody else, you'd be like, oh, they're going to cash in here and now. This is their chance. This is their moment. They're going to do it. They've been building this for ages. He hasn't been building to it. No one cares anymore. Like, the contract is so sort of, it's just forgotten about. The build for it is it's like, he's the tag team champion. All right, fair enough. That's good. Good on him. But like, he comes out with the briefcase. You think, oh, here he is. You don't look at the briefcase anymore. You just think, oh, it's Damian Priest. He's one half the tag team champions. Like, I don't know. If you haven't that be the case when you're missing Money in the Bank, you got a problem. And I think Damian Priest does have a bit of an issue there. I like Priest as well. I think he's good, but he's just not done a great job with it. And I think, the reputation's taken a bit of a hit there. We've seen EO cash in and have like a 7 or 8 month reign because she's done the right thing. But I don't know. Yeah, anyway, we can talk about that one for ages. Seth and Drew, this matchup. Let's talk about how I think it's going to go down then. I genuinely think that Drew is going to win this matchup. I think we're going to get a new world champion. I mean, we've been probably saying that Seth's gonna lose for a while now. But I don't see any reasonable situation where Seth walks out with the championship. It has to be Drew McIntyre. I think A, he deserves it. B, he's just been next level recently. This new side of Drew is just fantastic to watch. It's been so entertaining, and I think he's gonna get that moment in front of the fans where he's going to win the championship, and I think he absolutely deserves it. No one deserves it more than him to get that moment finally. So that's my thoughts about it. Do you agree?
To further make Damian Priest look silly, like, we, as you said, he's had so many opportunities with Seth, who's been injury ridden, which you've noticed. They haven't really alluded to that as much with this build with Drew. I found that interesting because with Shinsuke they did, and I think we both kind of thought, yeah, there's no way he's going to win this. I can't remember the last time we picked Seth to win. But yeah, and this is no different. But yeah, and not to mention the fact that Damian has Judgment Day behind him. So at any point, if he has Seth's number in the slightest, or even doesn't, he has the entirety of Judgment Day to help him. So it's like, honestly, this will go down as probably one of the worst. The only one I can think similarly as bad would be like Baron Corbin comes to mind. But yeah, I think if they don't have a plan for these Money in the Bank briefcases, I've seen it speculation before. Maybe they stopped doing that, which hurts me to say because Money in the Bank is one of my favorite PLEs. But if it seems like every year we have someone kind of not doing what they're supposed to. Last few years definitely haven't been favorable in my opinion. But anyways, as for the match itself, I think Drew has made up for 90% of this build because obviously Seth has been busy with the bloodline and that whole thing. But yeah, Drew has been, spectacular and the heel that we all need and deserve. And that's one of the reasons why I think he will win. I think I'm almost 100% positive. Every sign points to him winning. I'm not 100% sure why the CM Punk commentating. I guess to just be a distraction. Maybe it's not that simple. I don't know. We'll see. And then the pay-per-view announcement for Clash at the Castle being Glasgow. It just seems like every sign is pointing to Drew winning. Seth Rollins has had a good reign, but as we alluded to, we believe it should be over at this point. And then, CM Punk clearly would be right in there, probably the mix. And Drew versus CM Punk at Clash of the Castle, I'm all for that. That would be a great time.
Ooh, that sounds delightful, to be fair. Yeah, that does sound really, really good. We'll be very keen for that one. But yeah, I think the Clash at the Castle announcement does, like you say, it does sort of like point to that direction. So yeah, Drew getting the win here, I think is going to be fantastic. Hopefully that is the case. Seth has to lose at some point. And I think this is that moment. So yeah, it should be a great match, though, between the two of them. We've been saying that about everything. But that's the situation here. There are so many good matches on paper that, I think have that potential to really do deliver up to that point. And I think this definitely is one of those that can do that. So, yeah, excited for this one. Fingers are crossed for Drew McIntyre. And, yeah, should be a massive, massive moment for him once he does get that sweet victory in front of the crowd.
Yeah, and I agree. And I realized I hadn't mentioned the match at all because the build-up has so many contributing factors with the possible Money in the Bank briefcase and CM Punk being at the side and our dismay, I want to say dismay, but dislike for the length of Seth Rollins' run with how injured he's been, or at least was supposedly. But yeah, I agree. I think the match will be good. And I think, and you said earlier, and I think we say that every match is going to be good on it. And well, at least I said night one. I think night two isn't quite as strong, but we can go into that a little more later too. But there aren't a bunch of there aren't hardly any matches on these cards that I look at and just I'm not looking forward to. But yeah, I think this one will be probably one of the matches of the night, with Drew and Seth. You know what can go wrong. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good tangent to make there, because there are a lack of matches that I'm not really looking forward to, but there is one that I really am not particularly looking forward to and excited by, and that is our next topic of conversation. So we have got here a 3 versus 3 tag team match between the guys on SmackDown. You've got, I think they're being known as the Pride, correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, so Anzo Dawkins, Montez Ford, taking on the Authors of Pain, AOP, Akam and Razor, and Karrion Kross of the Final Testament. So this 3 versus 3 match, I think a lot of the matches on the card, they have like some sort of like meaning to them, whether they're fighting for legacy, honor, titles. You know, they really do hate each other and stuff. I guess this falls into that latter segment. So like these guys don't like each other. That is completely apparent. We all know that. I mean, although that's the case, I still look at it and I think, you know, it's all right. It's there. Like, I'm not particularly sort of hyped up for this one. I think this is probably my least interested matchup over the weekend. But I mean, I love a lot of the guys in here. I mean, the Street Profits, and they're ultimately talented. One of the better tag teams in the company. I really, really do think that. Bobby Lashley, obviously, is tremendously good. I think Karrion Kross, when booked right, is very, very good. I mean, I haven't really seen enough of AOP, and that's kind of crazy because they've been back and forth, you know, for a while, and they were great on NXT, but that feels like a decade ago. I know it's not been that long, but it feels like it. So, I don't know. They've been sort of very back and forth over the last like few months on SmackDown, and this ultimately led to the here and the now, 3 vs 3 at WrestleMania, and ultimately probably the culmination of this feud, which I'm happy about. I don't mind that. I'm happy for this one to be put to bed. But yeah, I don't know. Like, are you excited for this one? Do you have a bit more of an enthusiasm for it, or are you very much the same sort of side of the fence that I am?
I would say I'm sitting on the fence on this one, because while I agree that in terms of like what are you fighting for here, doesn't really feel like it's there. And I mean the build has been there as well. Just like, well, you know, what are we building to? That being said, I feel like because the match is, what do they term this, a Philadelphia street fight or something? I think because of that, I think match is going to be just pure carnage, and I think, yeah, I think afterwards I think because we're not looking forward to it as much, I think it's going to exceed our expectations. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's why this match. If this is just a straight 3-on-3 match, I probably couldn't care less about it. But because it's a Philadelphia street fight, I feel like it has potential to be good, with who's in it. Because of AOP and Street Profits, I feel like you could see a bunch of high spots between those two, and then Bobby Lashley and Karrion Kross in the ring, kind of doing their thing. I think if this match were just Karrion versus Bobby, I would be looking forward to it much more. I don't know. Yeah, it's something missing. But yeah, I feel like the match itself, just on paper, because it's a street fight, I feel like it could be a fun match. But in terms of matches overall, I feel like this is one of the weaker ones.
Yeah, in fairness, I had forgotten about the stipulation. So because it's the Philadelphia street fight, I mean, that does sell it a bit more. And I think that gives it sort of that edge to be a bit more crazy, chaotic, destructive, whatever you want to call it. So that does add that extra layer on top. So fair enough, I'd forgotten about that one. Okay, yeah, that does add a bit more to it. But I think even still, with the reward being that you finally beat the other three, I just don't. Yeah, it's not something that I'm really overly invested in. And don't get me wrong, like, no offense to any of these guys, I think you know, as I said, a lot of them are very, very good at what they do. It's just I don't know. When you've got a card that's as good as it is across the board, and there are so many really great matches, and they mean an awful lot, and they mean this, that, and the other. And then you have this. I feel like it's just like this is the bottom of the pecking order, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, it's something has to be, I suppose. When you got a card as good as it is, there has to be a drop and a difference. So I think that is where this one falls into it. But yeah, I mean, just because I'm not looking forward to it doesn't mean it isn't going to be good. The street fight element that could make it a lot more entertaining. So yeah, we'll see what goes down. But in terms of how I think this one is going to go, I think for far too long now, Bobby and the Street Profits have been sort of they've been trying to build themselves up in this new direction. Every time they try it, they get knocked back down a pedestal. And I think this is the moment now where they should be taking that step, and they should be getting a win here. And then they can go on afterwards to maybe challenge for tag titles. Bobby can maybe go into a world title picture or something. And then we can get some sort of development from there on for each of them. And I don't think Karrion Kross and the AOP quite ready for that yet if they were to get the victory. So I think, yeah, because of that reason, I'm going to go with the three on the left, the Pride. I think they're going to get the job done, and maybe better things coming their way afterwards.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have a clue who's going to win. I could see either team winning and not really benefiting much from it. I yeah, I feel like their Final Testament, it needs a win more. And because the Pride, I feel like, has their history to back them up more so. So I feel like for that reason only, I'm going to go with the heels here. And because it's a street fight, kind of, you would think that would kind of weigh in their favor a little bit. But again, unfortunately, this is kind of the match we'll deem probably the bathroom break match, just because, as you allude to, the both nights have a lot of good matches, and this one's just doesn't quite live up to the hype.
A 6-man street fight being a bathroom break is wild, but that is that. I mean, it's not something I disagree with. That's for sure. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I mean, we're going different directions there. I think Pride. You think Final Testament. That's the way this one could go. It could go either way. So I think that's a perfect little transition there onto what is next. So, believe now then, we have one more match to talk about, and that is possibly the biggest talking point of the entire weekend. We've already alluded to the transgressions in our previous video about the WrestleMania Night 1 matchup between Roman, The Rock, Cody, and Seth. And just as an FYI for you guys that are listening here, both Nick and I said that it would be the team of Roman and Rock to win, which therefore means that this will be a blind rules match. So I think that's how I'm going to present this going forward. Obviously, there is a chance that this could be a regular one-on-one between Cody and Roman, because Cody and Seth won on night 1. However, I think we both said that would not be the case, and that we do think this is going to go down the route of the bloodline rules type situation. So anything can happen, anything can go. But either way, what we do know is that this is for the undisputed Universal Championship, and something that Cody Rhodes has been absolutely dying to get his hands on since he came back to the company a couple of years ago. So let's talk about this. Roman Reigns, his run at the moment is crazy. It is over 1,300 days, and you're talking like the 5th longest reign in history or something like that. And he's getting, month by month, he's getting closer and closer to Hulk Hogan's record. That's the next milestone for him. Cody stands in his way for the 2nd year in a row. A lot of people thought, including myself, last year that Cody was going to beat Roman Reigns, and that was going to be the end of the Tribal Chief's reign. That didn't happen. We go on to the year after. Rhodes wins the Rumble, gets his main event spot, and gets Roman and Rhodes 2. Has the dynamic changed? There's been an awful lot that's gone on in the last year. But something that hasn't changed is that Cody still wants to finish his story, and he won't have that done until he wins this WWE Championship. And that has been the situation from the very get-go. So, Bloodline rules. I mean, you're talking anybody can get involved. You've got the final boss, The Rock. You've got Jimmy Uso. You've got Solo Sikoa. You've got Paul Heyman. You've got Mama Rhodes. You've got Seth Rollins. You've got however many other people want to come down and do the dance here in this one, in the main event. And I think that ultimately adds to so much speculation that there's no blueprint for this one. I think it could be just pure chaos. We spoke about the street fight. We spoke about the ladder match. I think this one is also going to be, as long as it is in Bloodline rules, it is going to be 100% chaos. And I guess let's start the conversation here. How do you think this one's going to play out in terms of your interference? So who do you think are absolutely bang on people to come on down and to stake their claim in the matchup in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, so this is where I struggled to come up with the outcome, because if our predictions come true, and I feel like we should also address what happens if our predictions don't come true. But if they do come true, obviously this is a longer conversation. I feel like Cody would be a bit outnumbered in terms of who can help. I think obviously for Roman you have Jimmy, Solo, and then Paul Heyman probably doing something. And then Cody, you have, I think, Jay. And I'm not sure who else, though, because I guess Seth, but maybe not, because he has his own match this night. So I don't know. In terms of that alone, I feel like that does kind of put the favor in terms of Roman winning. But maybe that's the point, stack all the odds against the babyface. Yeah, those are the only names I can think of as far as who would absolutely be there. And I don't see Seth being there with his own title match, and he had a match last night. I don't see them coming in here again. But curious to see who you think.
I mean, I think ultimately Seth's involvement, it very much depends on how things go in his match as well. Because I think if he wins the championship, if he wins it, if he defends it successfully, I think that's going to happen. But if he did, I think that him being involved in this one in some way, shape, or form is absolutely 100% guaranteed, right? I think it's going to be the case. It's just absolute certainty. Because he'll be looking to, have a wonderful weekend in the best way possible by defending his championship, and then obviously, costing Roman his championship. Fair enough. That would be great for him. So I think if that's the case, then 100%. However, because we said that Seth's going to lose to Drew McIntyre, I think that sort of makes things a bit more awkward, because then you could also add in desperation. Maybe the fact that Seth's lost his title, and he's thinking maybe, you know what, I can still make something out of this weekend. It can still be worth it as long as I go out here and I help my boy Cody get the victory over Roman Reigns. I think you could make an argument for him being involved either way, but depending on how badly a condition he's in after Drew McIntyre, then perhaps maybe not. But I think there's a lot of maybes and ifs and buts, but I think you could argue Seth will be involved in some way. But yeah, obviously Jimmy 100%. Jay on the counter of that 100% as well. I think I believe 100% they'll both be there. The Rock, easily, yep, as well as Paul Heyman, of course. Am I missing anybody out, realistically speaking? I mean, I don't think so. I think, Sammy and Kevin have moved on after last year. They have no business there now, as far as I'm concerned. But I think in terms of absolute guarantees, Jimmy, The Rock, Paul Heyman, Jey Uso, and then I think a good 90% chance Seth Rollins, I would say, unless something, I don't know, something that I'm not thinking about here maybe were to take place. But okay, off the back of that one, then we both voice our opinions on who we think is going to come down. So how about we get into the very big question then? In terms of the winner of the match, this is obviously something that genuinely could go either way. And I know a lot of people are thinking, what are you on about? Cody's going to win. He's going to finish the story. I just don't think it's that simple anymore. I think every time you think about it, Roman finds a way, and there's always something. There's always a little bit. Did I say Solo last year as well. You know, he was banned from ringside. He got sent back, right? He got sent back during the match, but he still managed to find a way to cost him. I think there's always a little path around the expected result, and I'm not entirely sure if we're going to get that Cody glorious moment this year either, just purely because there's got to be something else, right? There's always something else. But the matchup does provide a lot of questions. The bloodline rules means anything could freaking happen. So that's crazy to think about. Like, if you think about all the scenarios, you may think you have, but there might also be something else on top that no one's expecting. And for that reason, and I've got my finger high up in the air right now, I'm acknowledging my tribal chief. I genuinely think that Roman's going to win and he's going to retain again. I just don't see Cody winning this matchup. And that is wild for me to say, but last year I was thinking that Cody would win. This year I genuinely do not think it's going to happen. I can't see it.
Yeah, and I think, and this is kind of why, we talked about in the tag match, even if Cody and Seth are to win, which we don't think will happen, but even if they are to win, how, we've proved it time and time again, even if it's not bloodline rules, isn't it still technically? I mean, that they're not getting disqualified during bloodline rules, but bloodline always interferes, regardless. So I don't know. That's the hard part for me, and especially if the bloodline rules, they're outnumbered. I even forgot to mention The Rock, but so best case scenario, Rock, Jimmy, Solo. It just seems like he's outnumbered regardless. And does that make the babyface win that much better? I think so. I think regardless of what happens with the tag match, I think Cody does finish the story. And although I love the term Cody Crybabies, and I hope that continues because it's hilarious. And I just think, just as I thought last year, I think we've seen the reign last long enough, and I am team Cody Crybabies for this one. I just think, yeah, I think you can't write a story. You can't have a video game based around finishing a story. You can't do all of that. And for a second year in a row, nonetheless, to have Cody lose again. So I think this is the last of Roman's reign. And I would be curious, I haven't looked myself, I'd be curious if Roman has lost in a singles match before this year. Because I'm not thinking of one that he has, but I think if not, I think this is the first, and I think Cody is a champion for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think I expected you to say that, so it hasn't come as the biggest surprise to me. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like, as much as I want to be confident about Roman Reigns winning, I feel like the story is set for Cody, and I would be a fool to say that that's something that is not even remotely possible. But I don't know. Like I feel like every time we do think that Cody's going to get that, well, Roman's going to get that loss, it just turns out to be something we've missed. And for that reason, yeah, I'm going to stick to what it is that I mentioned a couple of moments earlier. But I mean, yeah, it's written in the stars, right? At this point, if Cody doesn't win here, I mean, how does he recover from this point? I can understand that. I completely get what everyone's saying. you can't have Cody lose twice in the same weekend at WrestleMania. There's so many. It's not going to happen. This is not possible. Whatever. And I get what people are saying, but I don't know. The tribal chief, I feel like, is not ready just yet. And Hogan's record isn't too far away. But yeah, I suppose on the back of this one, if Cody does win, let's talk about that for a moment. Then I think, like you said, he would have a lengthy reign. He wouldn't be able to have a short one. It's just not plausible, is it? To be fair, and I feel like a question that could be asked is, could Damian Priest cash in this one? But I mean, he couldn't cash in on two champions who are literally asleep in the middle of the ring. So that is not even remotely possible as far as I'm concerned regarding this one. But anything else you'd like to talk about regarding this matchup, or are we all done here?
Yeah, it's funny, right before you said it, the Damian Priest thing popped in my head again, because of the fact that if Cody were to win and then Damian Priest cashed in, so the guy that hasn't cashed in when the champion was dead to rights would then cash in on the guy that's been working on finishing a story for 2 years. While it is hilarious to think about, I would be livid. I would be so pissed off that Cody worked for all that to have it removed by whom I don't think is quite ready for the main event picture. And also because this will be the main event of night 2, I feel like that would be a very lackluster, personally. But regardless, I think the match will be good. Yeah, and I haven't said a word about the match really, other than the interference bit. I think the match will be another good one. And honestly, I think this match will probably get around an hour, especially if we're including Roman's entrance. So I think both main event nights will be good. Obviously, I think this one will be a little better. But yeah, I think it's written in the stars. I think Cody is our babyface hero, to finally take the title off Roman.
Just laughing about the whole Damian Priest situation. I mean, I don't think it's likely, but imagine the heat that would come from that. That would be absolutely crazy. Like he would be the most hated man in the company at that point. For Cody to spend so many, so long getting to that point where he finally gets to the top of the mountain, he beats Reigns, and he holds the title for a good old couple of minutes before then getting cashed in on by Damian Priest. That would be absolutely insane. Although on the contrary as well, you could maybe even have a crazy situation where Cody wins the championship off of Reigns, Priest cashes in, and then Cody beats Priest, which would just be a nail in the coffin for Damian Priest and his world title opportunity. But I mean, if the former was to happen, the heat would be tremendous against Damian Priest. But that's like the only positive you can swing on that one. But it would be probably a sour note to end on of what should be a very good WrestleMania weekend. So, I mean, that is it, guys. That's every single match discussed over the course of the weekend. Well, of course, of the couple of nights. And I think realistically, when you look at it, there's only like a good 2 or 3 matches that we are criticizing to a certain point. I think all the rest of them we're really excited for. We're looking forward to in spades. And there are a lot of potential directions that this WrestleMania can take a lot of people. And it's going to be one hell of a ride to see how that goes down. I mean, just talk about it all now is getting me, very, very keenly excited for the event to come around. Obviously, still got a couple of days before it does kick off at the time of recording. And the hype is building, which is awesome. Awesome. But before we do head off, anything quickly to discuss, or is that us completely done now?
I do have a few questions for you. First, on the night 1, night 2 bit, I think this is the 3rd, 4th year that we've done the night 1, night 2. Do you like this format? Or do you miss the all-in-one night format? And for this particular WrestleMania, which night are you looking forward to more? Night 1 or night 2? And which title, both nights, do you think is in the most jeopardy? And which title do you think is completely safe with its current holder?
fair few questions there, so please remind me if I forget a couple. But in terms of the WrestleMania format, I was never against like it all in one night, because obviously that was the status quo. That's what we knew from the very beginning, and I never really was against sort of like having it all in one. But I think since then it's become so much bigger, so much larger, and I think it's not really feasible anymore unless you literally start at like the times in the United States. But I mean, for over here, it would be like it'd be about 8 o'clock in the evening, go on until good 4 o'clock in the morning. So you'd have a good like 8 hour event, which I'm not entirely sure is what they would want from that. So I'm more than happy to have the 2 nights. It means that we stretch out across the weekend. It seems a much bigger, more wrestling. I'm keen with that. Showcases a lot of the talent, which is obviously good for them because they get their shot at WrestleMania. So yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy with that in terms of the dynamic that is now. In terms of your second question, I don't know what it was now. I remember the third one. Just remind me of the second question again, buddy.
Night 1 versus night 2. Which one are you looking forward to more?
That's the one. I would have very up in the air about this one. I'm going to go with night 2 purely because of the caliber of some of those matches. I mean, you got Roman against Cody, which is that right itself. That's huge. Drew against Seth is a moment that I have been waiting for such a long time because McIntyre winning, if that happens, is going to be a personal highlight of my weekend. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, Bayley and Io, that's night 2, isn't it? Yeah.
That's correct. Yep.
Bayley and Io, again, another personal favorite of mine. I can't wait to see that matchup take place. So I think, yeah, just for those matches alone, I think, and not any discredit to night 1 because night 1's great as well. On paper, it looks really, really good. But I think those are the ones that I'm really, really looking forward to, like the most probably. And the fact that they're all on the same night is pretty sick, pretty awesome. So, and then the championships. What is at most jeopardy? I mean, that's a hard one because obviously you've got a lot of titles on the line across the weekend. I think that the women's championship is probably in most jeopardy. So Io's title. I can't look past Bayley to become the new women's champion there. And that is probably the most jeopardy. But like the one that's probably the most safest houses. Bayley and Io. Yeah, Drew and Seth, Bayley and Io. Yeah, those two are definitely up there as the more jeopardous ones. But I think I'd probably give the edge to Drew and Seth, actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, one of those two for sure. Either way, though, I think they're both definitely gonna have new champions by the end of it. But yeah, the ones that are safest houses. I mean, Logan's is pretty safe as far as I can guess, but I think Gunter has to be the safest in my opinion, for sure. I wasn't including the tag team titles purely because I think it's a given that one's going to change anyway. But we'll see what the hell happens with that. That's a crazy kettle of fish to open. So, yeah, safest houses, Gunter as the top one for sure. What about everything on your end, though? What are your opinions on all of that?
Yeah, I think the safest would be Gunther regardless. And I think the one of the most jeopardy I would put as Seth. I feel like I could see Io winning due to the help she could potentially get. It wouldn't surprise me as much as Gunther losing would be. My jaw would be on the floor probably. In terms of the 1 and 2 nights, while I do feel like it does kind of water it down a bit with the 2-night format, the 1-night format was a lot. And I think the last year they did it at one night, I think it started at like 4 o'clock or something, our US time or something. I want to say it was 4 o'clock because I remember it being like after like the sun was still like very much out. It's like this is weird. This is weird because they kept making it longer and longer. So I understand the 2 night format, but I do feel like it does. I do miss the 1 night format sometimes too. But I like that they could include more people this way. But now that they've got it kind of extended, they have like a whole week of Mania, and then you have the week after is usually pretty big too. Eventually there'll be the month of Mania. But yeah, I understand why they changed it, but I do miss the 1 night sometime. And night 1, night 2, I actually think I'm looking forward to night 1. I feel like night 1 on paper has potential to be the better matches. But neither night is looking like a slouch in any stretch of the imagination. But I'm excited. It should be a lot of fun, and yeah, it'll be exciting to see how long it takes us to do the reaction, because I feel like our predictions are always shorter than our reactions, and these 2 videos have been quite long.
Yeah, we're in for one hell of a recording session next week, that's for sure. We're going to be talking about all the shenanigans that went down. But, I mean, yeah, we've got a long old journey ahead of us, but it should be great, though. We're very passionate about this. So it's always a good bit of fun, just seeing what we made of everything. And that is ultimately what our next video is going to be, guys. So this is the end of this one here and now. Night 2 predictions for WrestleMania. So next up will be the reactions to what will probably be night 1, and then we'll separate it into night 2 as well, I would have thought. But thank you everybody for coming in and joining us here today, for listening in to what we've had to say, and thank you also to Nick for coming along with me and for showcasing your opinions of what you think is going to go down. It should be a great weekend. Everybody enjoy WrestleMania. It should be a wonderful occasion, and look forward to those matches and all the shenanigans that come their way. But this has been The Push with me, KP, and with Nick, and we will see you guys again shortly. Cheers, everybody, and goodbye.